Hello and welcome to the first ever Bubba Talks Wrestling podcast. Coming to you live wherever you are. Hope you enjoy. Little introduction to all this. All things pro wrestling. WWE, AEW, New Japan, TNA. Everything you love as a wrestling fan. Right now is one of the best times to ever be one since the Attitude Era. So many just facets of wrestling out there to watch. Almost every day of the week. Numerous things to talk about in the history of wrestling. Been around 100 plus years. So much rich history to be talked about, opinions, Mount Rushmores, has-beens, who could-have-beens, who never were, the what-ifs. There are so many things to talk about, and that's pretty much what we're here to do. Discussions, opinions. No one's wrong, really, because everybody's going to have a favorite, they're going to have a preference, but try to keep an open mind. I try to keep an open mind. I have my favorites I lean on, but at the end of the day, any kind of wrestling production should be valued in this day and age. It's a pure form of entertainment. It's artistry when done correctly, when done by people with passion and that try to make it look like a spectacle. Give you your money's worth, as they say. And we should be fortunate as wrestling fans right now. We have so many different options to watch. So, from one fan to the other, let's not get nitpicky and let's not just bash other options. Just don't talk about it. Just don't watch it. You know, do you, stay in your lane, watch what you watch. Me, I grew up in the Attitude Era. I was blessed. I had the opportunity to watch WCW and WWE go at it in the Monday Night Wars and bring some of the best wrestling television that any fan has ever seen. It was captivating. It created an aura, and it's something that they still talk about to this day, that they're still trying to recapture. And we're kind of this close at this moment. We've got some great talent in the WWE, and I just think with the right leadership that they've finally gotten here recently, that you can see a difference in the production. You can see a difference in everything, the writing, the matches. Everybody just seems like they're more free. And I think that's great when you have a little bit of creative freedom, not too much, because there are some people who we all know and love that can take creative control a little bit too far. But it's a great time for wrestling. Look at what we get to watch. This year in particular, I have an opinion that this is probably going to be one of the better WrestleManias we've had in some time. It was a slow build at first. Yes, I was a little frustrated as a fan as well watching it. But it's starting to kind of pick up. A lot of the storylines that felt like they were kind of lagging, starting to pick up. We were throwing a few curveballs. Unfortunately, we can kind of get right into it. I was just going to kind of do a recap of Friday Night SmackDown as it's leading into the WrestleMania. Not really going to cover WrestleMania much. This will be more like an intro video, just kind of going into a few things, but we're already talking about SmackDown. Let's talk about it. Poor Kevin Owens. I'm a huge Kevin Owens fan. I think he's been underused and underutilized most of his WWE tenure, much to the chagrin of a lot of fans. And as he said Friday night, timing couldn't be worse. And we've seen this happen several times in the past where someone's getting some steam, someone's getting a good push, and they're finally going to have, what they consider on their bucket list matches. Because wrestling Randy Orton at WrestleMania would be a bucket list match to anybody who loves professional wrestling. And to hear him have to say, I'm going to have to go get neck surgery. And us wrestling fans who are real fans know that's nothing to just shake your head at. There have been some greats that have had to walk away completely from it because of that. There's been some greats that it's hindered their career to where they've had to slow down and alter what they do. So, it does change the game. And it's truly, truly terrible. Hope he has a speedy recovery. One of my favorite to watch. I love. He was the total package in my opinion when it comes to Superstar. He can talk. He can wrestle. He can do it all. He had a good look. It was different. It was distinct. I don't care what anybody says. That whole body shaming thing, you know, we can't all be Adonises out there. But what he can do, what guys like Jake Roberts, Mick Foley, some of the greats that, yeah, they weren't built like a Stackhouse, but they can make you feel like it's real. They can make you feel like what you're seeing is an actual car wreck. And unfortunately, for the three aforementioned, most of their career looked like a car wreck because they kind of had to do that because the eras that they were in, that's not what was deemed as top guy material. You know, we'll get into that in that's a whole nother segment in its own, you know, talking about the guys that probably should have been much better off than what they were left with. But poor Kevin Owens, you know, I felt terrible watching that. As a wrestling fan, you know, you're always wondering, is it a work? Is it a shoot? Is it a work? You know, is he going to pull Mark Henry, you know, the whole fake retirement? AJ did it. But he didn't. And I was almost sold that it was a work when they hit Randy Orton's music. You see him come out. I was like, okay, maybe this is a work, you know, but for him to not lay hands on him, just walk up to him, that you knew it was probably a shoot. And that's terrible. I hate to see anybody get sidelined, whether I'm a fan of them or not. That's taking money off their table. It could cost them their livelihood if things don't go well with the operations and everything. And it absolutely made me sick to my stomach because I knew what was going on before they cut the camera away. Because I know the type of guy Kevin Owens is, and I would probably be the exact same way. Some fans still decided it would be okay to just start, you know, cussing him out, calling him a piece of shit. And it's like, dude, I just told you I just had to give up my dream, possibly forever. And, you know, come on, man. You're not being a wrestling fan when you do that. Not at all. You need to learn when to turn it off just like the workers do. You can't be a heel all the time. But I hope he gets a speedy recovery. I know it's pretty lengthy, you know, missing some time there with that kind of surgery because that is serious. But I hope he gets healthy, gets back. Best to him and his family. But on a better note, a little bit higher note to what happened on SmackDown, finally got the debut of the other half of the Lucha Bros. We get Rey Fenix. We have been speculating it. I mean, they've kind of laxed with their nonchalant way of with these vignettes. I mean, you can call him out a mile away with his mask and everything, but I'm still happy about it because I still love watching AEW. I just think that you know, they got a little oversaturated there for a minute with talent for an up-and-coming company, sorry. You know, the promotion probably should have stopped hiring there for a minute because clearly they didn't have enough TV time for everybody. And I feel like guys like Rey Fenix and Penta, while they did have success over there, not everybody can get used the right way. And sometimes the frustration builds enough. And not only that, you know, age is a factor in professional wrestling. You know, contact sports, you get to a certain age and that longevity is not going to be there much longer. So you need to get it while the getting's good, basically. And, you know, they jumped on the opportunity, and I think WWE has done a great job so far with both of them. They didn't come out the gates right away with squash matches and big, just have big spectacle of a match. They came out and worked really good matches, technical matches with every opponent, and, you know, really showcasing why they were brought in the way they were. Not just to NXT, you know, they brought them in with all the pompous and circumstance. Well, show us why they're good other than just squash matches, because I'm not a huge fan of squash matches unless the guy's a giant, and even then, after a while, it just gets, you know, gets old pretty quick. But Rey Fenix, WWE on SmackDown, so that's nice. They're going to keep them separated for a little bit, let them establish themselves. I think it would be interesting to see them team up and go over to Raw. I feel like the Raw brand needs a little bit stronger of a tag division right now. You've got a few teams, but, you know, SmackDown's got their hands full. They got plenty. And they got teams that are actually working really well together right now. I never thought I'd say this, but Pretty Deadly's been looking pretty decent recently. Working with guys like DIY and Motor City Machine Guns is going to elevate you a little bit better, I would assume. Those guys have been doing it for a long time. They're ring generals. They can show you the ropes. They can call a match. They can lead you to make you, set you up for success, basically. And, they've done a good job because, I like Pretty Deadly when it comes to their physical abilities, but at first, wasn't really sold on the gimmick just because I think at first they were trying to do it a little bit too over the top. The segment they had on Friday night was genius with Miz and Mello. I thought they made them look so much smarter there. I'll get past the fashion part. That's just me being old. But yeah, I think SmackDown's got enough tag teams right now. Their plate's full with people having good matches together. It'd be nice to see Rey Fenix eventually jump over to Raw and join his brother, have the Lucha Bros win tag titles in the WWE. That would be really cool to me. I love tag team wrestling. I'm a huge, huge, huge tag team wrestler guy. I think it's so underrated. When you get two of the best teams together in a ring, it's just as captivating as having a main event singles match at WrestleMania sometimes. Some of my favorite tag teams have had just nothing but classics. We'll get into that another episode with the tag teams. Get a little off course, but that's fine. But SmackDown, it was a pretty good one. Almost felt like a go-home episode, but I'm interested to see how it turns out with the whole Charlotte Flair, Tiffany Stratton thing. Anybody that understands the wrestling business and watches it knows when a promo is going off script. You get a feeling. You get an inkling. Okay? And that whole segment, first of all, it did not start off hot at all. The crowd, I felt like, just did not. They were in Chicago, and they're a harsh crowd. They're hard to be in front of. And I just don't think Charlotte Flair had her right foot forward the entire time. I just don't think she was ready for it. And apparently they already had a little bit of beef backstage. And I guess sometimes it's not a good idea to tell talent, go out there and say what you want to say. Especially on live television. And especially when they don't like each other. Because there were a couple lines said there at the end, and I think everybody knows what I'm talking about, where Stratton basically calls out Flair for already being divorced 3 times. And you could just see Charlotte Flair's face just go flush. On top of that, she gets all flustered and tries to come up with a quick comeback, basically trying to say, oh yeah, your boyfriend that's never mentioned on TV, because that's, now we're getting real personal. Oh yeah, he's in my DMs. I mean, it would have turned into a cat fight, I believe, had Stratton stayed in there. She did the pro move, say something, and get out. Because at the end of the day, it was already a blown segment. You're going to blow it even more. Say your piece, get out of the ring, save the segment, and hopefully save the match coming up at WrestleMania. Because hopefully they can work together. Because I would really hate to have... probably a couple more shows from now we'll be doing WrestleMania, and I would really, really hate to have this next conversation with y'all about how that was probably going to be the worst match on the card, because if you don't work, it doesn't look good. It gets stiff, it gets awkward, the crowd doesn't know how to react to it, it doesn't look fluid, it doesn't look nice. And I'm just hoping they can work together, work out your differences, just put on a match, be pros, you can hate each other afterwards. Not everybody's going to get along, but when you start affecting the show with it is when, maybe you should just do that backstage and leave it back there. But, my opinion. I also was excited to see the fact that I'm a huge Jacob Fatu fan right now. Wasn't sure where the whole bloodline thing was going, of course, after last WrestleMania. Because it kind of got a little lackluster. Solo trying to be the new tribal chief and all that, and bringing Fatu in, and it's nice to see them kind of give him his own space, even though he still is part of it, because those guys don't always go out to the ring with him. He'll tell them, stay back here, I'm gonna go do my thing, and he's starting to work so many different body size superstars that you're seeing he can work with anybody. And that's a great tool to have as a superstar. He can cut a promo. Fantastic athlete. And he's hot right now. The crowd's behind him. He can do no wrong as at this moment. And I would really, really, really love to see them go ahead and put that U.S. strap on him. I don't think LA Knight needs it. I really don't. He's kind of one of those guys, he doesn't have to have a title. You know, he's kind of better as the guy chasing it. So you need someone to take it off of him. And I think Fatu needs to have it. Because we need to have a dominant champion that's going to hold it for a while and make it meaningful when someone finally gets it back. So I'm hoping they kind of build a program with those two, because that would be fun on the mic. That would be fun on the mic. Yeah, Motor City Machine Guns getting their #1 contendership, trying to get those tag titles back from the Street Profits. Love that heel turn. I wish it would be a complete heel turn. I don't know why they're not taking away some of the babyface aspects from the Street Profits. I don't really want them to be anti-heroes. I want them to be kind of like what the Hurt Syndicate is in AEW. Because Dawkins is a big enough dude. You know, he can throw guys around. He's a pretty solid sized dude. And Montez Ford's no joke. Solid athlete. He's got a ruthless look to him. Like, let him go full-blown heel. I want to see them injure somebody. I want to see them leave them bloodied. I don't want to see flashy frog splash off the top unless you're going through a table, or unless you're going to do it 3 times in a row like Fatu does his moonsault, and start acting more, just a little bit more like heels. Just a little bit more. Because the whole coming out there and doing the same entrance, you're still looking like a babyface. You're still dancing. Okay? Heels don't dance, well, unless you're the Spirit Squad, maybe. But anyway, just let them go full heel, because I think a full heel Street Profits versus Motor City Machine Guns would be a really good match. And of course, the big thing that was on SmackDown, of course, what was on everybody's mind. Everybody wanted to know what was the last favor, the big favor that we thought we saw last week. But that wasn't the favor. Not just getting in the main event of WrestleMania. No, that wasn't just the favor. Now, I kind of had an inkling what it was going to be, because all the titles are, you know, they're occupied. You know, he can't just steal a Money in the Bank. Roman doesn't have it. Seth doesn't have it. So there's no way he can put that on the line. Neither of the other two have any kind of leverage to put him in the other 2 title matches. So I kind of figured, yeah, he was going to want Paul Heyman in his corner. He was going to want his OG wise man back. Because, you know, there's a lot of Heyman guys, but Punk he's the Heyman guy. So it was kind of, you know, obvious, I think, in my opinion, but I think it works. I'm trying to mess with the psyche of Roman Reigns. I'm still trying to figure out the whole Seth Rollins in this aspect. They're still not making it clear why it's a triple threat 100%, in my opinion. Just because, yeah, Seth doesn't like either one of them. And he's mad at both of them for letting the other one coexist when Seth was trying to take either one of them out. But CM Punk has beaten Seth, so he's not worried about him anymore. Roman has beaten Seth, he's not worried about him. So it just kind of, I don't know, it's that third wheel thing. It's kind of strange. I hope they can give Seth something else to kind of pull. Maybe Heyman turns on them both and he hopes Seth wins the match, and that's the only reason he's there. I don't know. A little theory of mine. We'll see how that pans out. But Friday night was a pretty good show. We're still waiting to see what's going to happen with the Intercontinental title. You got Penta being teased. You've still got Finn being teased that he's going to try to get a match with Braun Breaker over on Raw. That happened earlier in the week. And I would like to see a multi-man match. We don't have any multi-man matches really, clearly other than the tag titles and the triple threat. But, you know, it's WrestleMania. There's usually one of those. Other than the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, you know, there's usually a ladder match for the Intercontinental or, you know, something. So I'm kind of hoping they do something creative. I clearly wouldn't have a problem with just being at those 3. But you could insert other people in there. Ludwig Kaiser's been, you know, clamoring for it. Throw Sheamus in there. I'd love to see him finally get the IC title, and at WrestleMania, no less. That would be pretty magical for the Irishman. I think that would be pretty cool. It's like his only accomplishment left to get the Grand Slam, so that would be really awesome. Yeah, man, WrestleMania, it's starting to pick up. Enjoyed seeing what's going on finally with the Usos and Gunther. I know everybody's been kind of like, Jey Uso. I get it. You didn't want to see the same old, same old. Everybody wants to see something new, something fresh. So when the Royal Rumble comes around, I too get tired of seeing the same people win it year after year. And if you kind of think about it, there wasn't a lot of options. Everybody else was pretty much already tied up in something. Now, personally, I kind of think it should have gone to Seth Rollins, only because former world champion, and I just don't think Jey Uso is ready for it yet. I think he is a solid worker. I think he is great in the ring. But, main eventing WrestleMania with a World Heavyweight Championship on the line seems a bit much too quick. Give him the Intercontinental title again. Give him the U.S. title. Let him kind of build off of those. I would even advocate, and I would say it would be awesome if they would have sent him down, go for the NXT Championship. Because he can teach a lot of those guys down there at Full Sail, things they don't know yet. He's a ring veteran. He's a ring general, and he can help so many others, up-and-comers, or guys trying to get adjusted to the way WWE does it differently from another company or the indies. Veterans like him can help with that. But it just, I wasn't invested. Until you see how Gunther got so vicious this last Monday night. Just bloodying up Jimmy. Blood just all over him. Holding the title up high. And it was a great visual. And Jay did a great job selling, trying to get to him. But we've all seen that spot too, where you're handcuffed, or in this case, zip tied to the ropes while I, bloody your loved one. But it worked. I'm just still kind of worried for the match itself, because as much respect as I can give to Jey Uso, I feel like they didn't give Gunther enough. Like, I think as his first world championship, he could have gotten more out of it. While I did enjoy the work, still do, because I think Gunther is underrated. I think he's going to be around for a while, and he's going to be in that title scene for quite some time. Probably a reason why The Undertaker likes him so much. He is a throwback. I love throwbacks. I love that hard-nosed style. So it's interesting, because you got to wonder, is it just going to be a squash match? I think that's not the best way to go about it, but if Uso comes out and just wins it, bing, bang, boom, pretty quick, it's going to be very awkward. It's going to be very awkward. I know the fans there, they're gonna yeet their minds out, but some of us fans are gonna go like, oh, man, he just killed Gunther. Like, they got to come up with something clever there, whether there's a title change or not, because you don't want to kill Jey Uso's character either. They've been building him up like crazy, so got to be careful. If he loses, you don't want to kill him, because you've already got that rocket strapped to his back. And so there's got to be, I think there's going to be a funny finish, I feel. I just don't know how they're going to go about it. Maybe Aleister Black, because we've all been getting that tease. I think we all kind of know who that is, that they've been teasing lately. And I wouldn't mind an Aleister Black Gunther, going after the title. That'd be fun. That'd be a good rivalry. That'd be fun. That'd be a good program. Other than that, that was kind of an introduction. Just getting it out there. Hope I get some fans out there that want to talk about it. I love discussions. Leave comments. Tell me what you want to talk about. I kind of rambled on about some WWE today, but I'm old school. I love talking about everything. Best titles, WCW days, NWA days. I know some New Japan off and on, just depends on how much of it I can get. I've watched TNA since it began. Never really hated on TNA. It was a WCW knockoff. I mean, they kind of had the same formula. A lot of people are worried about that with AEW today, but we'll see. I hope it's not that way. I hope AEW can figure it out. They're not doing a terrible job. I just think more consistency with the writing. Figure out what storylines are. Not just for the main event people. You have to have storylines for everybody. Otherwise, you hire too much too quick, and you don't have enough creative to cover that kind of roster. And I think that's more so what's hurting it. And so then you have, go ahead and, just you guys come up with the segment. I trust y'all. Just try to stay PG enough, da 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 da. And then you have a lackluster segment because you got the patients running the asylum at one point, which is exactly what has killed one company, almost killed another company in TNA. And if they're not careful, I mean, fans are, I don't want to say fickle, but fans are going to be quick if it gets just too monotonous. They're going to want to see story, because wrestling is about stories. It's not just about the flippy dippies. It's not just about the hardcore. It's not just about the entrances. It's about all of it. The theatricals, the drama, everything. It's all got to be there. And, you miss one key element, and the fans will venture off to another thing. And Cody kind of hinted at that last time we saw him and Cena talking, that, you didn't clean your room before you left, and you kind of made it easy for me to get viewers to switch the channel. So it is true that you've got to keep up. You've got to make it interesting, but not by suplexing people onto barbed wire bats. I think we all know what we're talking about there. I mean, that was painful to watch. I've seen Japanese death matches, growing up, watching Mick Foley, guys like Vader, all those guys from over in Japan doing those death matches, and that was borderline disgusting because you saw the skin moving and everything, and it was like a horror movie almost. You got to have everything, so hopefully they get that a little bit figured out. But I want to thank anybody and everybody that tunes in. Appreciate it. Hope you subscribe. Hope you start following. I'm going to start trying to do this 2-3 times a week, as many times as I can, as much wrestling as I watch. I want to talk about it, but on top of that, I like talking about every aspect of wrestling. If you want to talk about eras of wrestling, you want to talk about titles, you want to talk about superstars, you want to talk about people who should have gotten what they didn't get, people who got stuff that they shouldn't have gotten. We can talk about everything. I'm an open book, but enjoy you coming in, taking a listen, and we will see you later. Check us out at Bubba Talks Wrestling.